Welcome aboard the Athletics Can't Wait Jets podcast, your nonstop shop for all things Jets with Tim McMaster, Zack Rosenblatt, and Marissa Dunn.
Can't wait.
Here we go. The Jets are 4-2. They're heading to Denver for a winnable game against a struggling team. What could possibly go wrong with this franchise? Second-year player who's done very little in his career, demanding a trade and getting sent home from practice. We are going to talk about it. This is the Can't Wait podcast. Tim McMaster here, along with that Athletics Jets reporter, Zack Rosenblatt, our producer, Marissa Dunn. Welcome. Thanks for joining us on a Friday morning. We almost recorded on Thursday morning this week, and man, am I glad we waited, because things
would have been two different shows.
Yeah, we would have
had to do another one. Yeah,
exactly. We're going to talk all about Elijah Moore, get you ready for the Broncos game, and of course, do our picks with a special guest, which you teased a little bit on Twitter, Zack. It's not Connor, by the way. It's not.
I would never surprise you guys with Connor.
No, exactly. But we start with the Elijah Moore situation. I'm going to go through the timeline, Zack, and then I want your kind of reaction to this. But obviously, you look at the numbers: 16 catches, 203 yards, 29 targets this season. The targets: 7 week 1, 5 week 2, 9 week 3, then 4-4-0. And that's where the frustration has come in. So he tweeted on Sunday night. We talked about this back on Monday. If I say what I really want to say, I'd be the selfish guy. We winning, grateful, huge blessing. All I ever wanted, bittersweet for me, but I'll be solid. So I'll just stay quiet. Just know I don't understand either. So clearly he wrote that, but he didn't mean it. So from there, Saleh speaks on Monday, says that everything's fine. He's a competitive guy. He wants to contribute. He's a high character guy in this team. No problem. Then Thursday comes. He's not at practice. Originally, there was stuff out there about him just taking a day, personal day, basically. Then it comes out that he was sent home by the team after an outburst that apparently, according to reports, both surprised the team, angered the coaches, and then he requests the trade. The Jets don't want to trade him. That brought us to today. Robert Saleh had a press conference, just wrapped up about, half an hour ago. You were writing about it already, Zack, in which we'll get into that separately, I think, how Saleh handled this whole thing. But the mess of Moore first. You've been around this team all season. You've been in that locker room. What are your thoughts on this latest Jets moment?
Oh my God.
Cue the rant. Let's go.
I'm honestly at a loss for words. Like, look, Denzel Mims, and we're going to get into Mims later. He had his trade request. Elijah Moore has his. And like the entitlement of these guys to think that they deserve like what they're asking for. Like they've done nothing in the league. You're nothing around the league right now. You don't deserve to demand a trade. Like you have not earned that, right? Like Jamal Adams, for all his faults, Jamal Adams was an absolute stud before he decided he wanted to get traded. Like he earned, but whether you agree that he should have done all that or he handled it right or whatever, he proved himself, and Elijah Moore has not proven anything. This guy is in his second year. He's played 17 games, and I know he hasn't gotten a lot of targets this year, but I think he has like 700 yards in 17 games. They've won 3 games in a row. They're 4-2. The vibes have never been as positive as they are right now. Like those positive vibes only shirts aren't as annoying when they're winning. And this guy, just made it all about himself. Like, I get being frustrated and wanting the ball, but every time these guys go in front of the microphone, they talk about how all they care about is winning. And it's so clear that Elijah Moore does not care about that. Like there's no other way to put, it's not like he's not even playing. He's playing a lot. If you look at the context, it's like he's ignoring the context. They've not really thrown the ball the last 2 weeks. So Garrett Wilson's not getting the ball either. Corey Davis didn't really get the ball this last week. CJ Uzomah, they paid a lot of money to bring here, and he's not really getting the ball, and you don't hear him complaining. He's blocking. Dwayne Brown, he hurt his shoulder before the season. He could have had surgery, and he probably would have had to retire. And instead, he said, I'm not going out like that. And he's coming out, and he's grinding his ass off every week, and he's playing really well. DJ Reed, week 1, he finds out his dad dies before he goes out on the field. He doesn't say anything to anybody. He goes out and plays a game of his life. Still doesn't say anything to anybody after the game. And he's just grinded and been, a leader for this team. Quincy Williams 2 weeks ago hurts his ankle, or 3 weeks ago hurts his ankle to the point that he got carted off. Everybody thought He wasn't going to, play anytime soon. He comes back way faster than expected, comes out and has a game of his life. Like I know injuries aren't maybe the right comparison, but it just blows my mind that this kid thinks he's earned the right to demand a trade, earned the right to get angry in the middle of a 3-game winning streak when things are going as well as they're going, for him to do this and try to derail what's going on here. Like what did he think was going to happen when he the reports are that he blew up on Michael LaFleur. Like what do you think's going to happen when you blow up on your offensive coordinator? These last 2 weeks, they haven't thrown the ball much. It's not going to be like that every week. Zach Wilson just got back 3 weeks ago. It was going to take time for him to acclimate back with his receivers who he hadn't practiced with in months. And again, it's only week 7. Like there's so much season left. Like what does he think's going to happen? He's never going to get the ball again. He plays more than any other of the receivers. Like I don't really know what he thought was going to happen here. Especially, that tweet he had on Sunday. Even within the tweet, he like contradicted himself because he says, I don't want to. If I say anything, then I'll be viewed as selfish. And then he says something at the end of it,
and he's viewed as selfish. He was right.
He's like, we're winning. That's all I ever wanted, to win. And so I'm just gonna stay quiet. Obviously, he did not stay quiet. At least, I guess technically he didn't say anything on Twitter. And then Thursday comes, they send him home. He sends all these cryptic tweets. He has his best buddy AJ Brown tweeting about him, saying free Elijah. I mean, I'm sure they're talking pretty nonstop. Like, what do you think everybody in this locker room is thinking? Like, everybody is in there grinding their asses off to get wins for this organization that has not won in a very long time. And Elijah Moore is really just making it all about himself. Like, there's no other way to put it. Like, it's not about, I know there, Robert Saleh played it off well, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. He wants to contribute was like the line that he kept saying, but they're winning without him contributing. Who cares? Like, if they need you to contribute, then they'll throw you the ball. Like, I just don't get it, man. He's 22 years old, and I think it was a smart move sending him home. Maybe he'll calm down. Maybe he'll come to his senses, realize what he did. I imagine he has to apologize to his teammates. I don't know if they feel that way. I'm sure they have a pretty good locker room, as Saleh said. They have a lot of veterans in that room. I think Corey Davis said they'll welcome him back with open arms. He's not getting traded, by the way. Like that. I mean, that's obviously a big part of this. They're not going to trade him, and I get why. I personally would bench him until the bye week. Just, send a message. I don't think they're going to do all of that because at the end of the day, what wins out is talent, and he's a talented player. I said all of training camp that I thought there were days where he was the best player on the field. Like, the talent is obviously there, and to his point, like, he should be getting the ball more. Like that, he's right about that. Like he's ran, I think, 222 routes according to True Media. He's been targeted. He's like the 5th on the Jets in targets and 6th in catches or something like that, which is obviously not good. And he was open in the Flacco weeks. I'm not sure if he's been as open in the Wilson weeks. So he's on the field. The touches will come once Zach Wilson gets more comfortable and once they start throwing the ball more. They might not throw the ball that much on Sunday. Even if he had played, I don't know if he was going to get the ball much because the Broncos have a good pass defense. But yeah, he's just, it's an unwanted distraction. I don't know if he's going to talk today. I had to leave because I'm flying to Denver a little early. But I don't know if he's going to talk today, but either way, his teammates have had to answer these questions about him. It's become a distraction in a week where they should be talking about how they have a chance to extend the winning streak to 4 games, to go to Denver. They're 1 point underdogs. It started off at 3.5. It dropped all the way to 1, which basically means that it's either even or that they view the Jets as, the better team here. And we're spending time on a Friday talking about a receiver who's mad about how he's not getting the ball in week 7 when the Jets don't win games. And this is, so we're going to spend the whole podcast talking about him. I normally have a preview that comes out on Saturday. We had to shelve it because I have to focus on this now. Again, this has nothing to do with me. I'm just, my point being, like,
so selfish, Zach.
Like my point being just like, he's turned the focus away from the game, away from the team. I think Zach Wilson even handled it pretty well when he talked yesterday. He talked about how, he said all this stuff about how we love Elijah. We're going to let him know that. I mean, we're going to get him the ball. And even Zach was like, we just haven't been throwing the ball that much the last couple of weeks. Like that's all it. And it's just like all right there. Like, what did he think was going to happen these last 2 weeks? He knew what the game plan was those weeks. Nobody got the ball in the passing game. Like, I just don't understand what he was thinking. Who was in his head telling him this was the right idea to get sent home and then to calm down and then demand a trade when you get home. It just shows that he has a lot of growing up to do. He's going to have to do it in a Jets uniform this year. They're not trading before the deadline. Who knows about this offseason? So they're going to try and make it work. I think Saleh made that clear. I think they can. I think this can be salvaged. I don't think it's going to, tear apart the locker room. But, he's going to have to earn back some trust from a lot of guys in that locker room. Whether there's guys that I'm sure a lot of guys agree he should be getting the ball more. He's a talented guy. As Salah said, he was a popular figure in that locker room. So I'm sure there are guys that are like, he has a point, and I get why he's mad. But I can tell you for sure that there are guys in that locker room who are like, is he really doing this right now when we're in the middle of a 3-game winning streak? Like, I don't know. I'll end my rant there, but that's
I think the key thing, like best case scenario, I think from a Jets perspective, is this is an example of a 22-year-old, right? A kid who is 22. So there's, it's probably some immaturity there as far as like seeing the big picture. And the second thing that you mentioned is like, he's getting bad advice. It really feels like somebody's in his ear. I don't know if that's his representation or just friends, like you mentioned AJ Brown, but somebody is giving this guy just terrible advice. And hopefully there's a realization here and a maturity that comes through, because he is only 22 years old, that like, you know what? I can be annoyed that I'm not getting the ball, but this was the worst possible way to handle that frustration. Like there's a good way to do it, right? Talk to your quarterback, talk to your offensive lineman, or offensive coordinator. Don't yell at your offensive coordinator. Have a conversation. Like, how are we getting me involved? Like, blah, blah, blah. But he's 22. So I think there's, that's the hope, is that, he grows up a little, this gets salvaged, and we have something down the road. But the fact that this is what he's thinking about when his team's won 3 in a row is definitely, it's shocking. You mentioned Salah a bunch of times. Salah has spoken multiple times. LaFleur spoke. You mentioned Zach Wilson spoke. I will say this for this Jets franchise, they have handled this, I think, as well as a team can handle a messy situation. And that's not something we're used to saying about the Jets.
Yeah. Even so yesterday, just to give you an idea of like what happened. So we go out for practice. We see that he had, me and Andy Vasquez, who covers the Jets for NJ.com, we both like saw that he sent a couple tweets that he since deleted. It was like, I love my teammates. God, show me the way. It was like something like that. We're like, right before practice, he's tweeting. That's weird. Then we go out to practice, and me and Andy look at each other. I'm like, do you see Elijah there? We're like looking. We're like making sure. We're like waiting to make sure he doesn't come in late or he's off to the side field, because you never know. Sometimes it's hard. It's hard because we only see them for a certain stretch, so you don't know if a guy's gonna whatever. And we're just like, and we see he's not there. And so, as all the reporters start noticing, Salah comes over, talks to us, and says that he was excused. He phrased it weird, so we all, I think, interpreted it wrong. He said something along the lines of he's excused, he's with family or something like that. So we thought it was like of family reasons is why he was excused. As it turned out, it wasn't that, of course. So that was all weird. But the point being, like, Salah he was clearly trying to, like, they were clearly kind of protect him in a way and say, like, we sent him home. We're not going to exactly say why. And then he'll come back tomorrow, and everybody will be able to go on about their business. And then that's not what happened. Obviously, he demands a trade when he gets home. Cooler heads do not prevail. And now, he's not going to play this weekend. He's not going to play on Sunday, which is the right move. He's not even going to travel with them to Denver. He's not even practicing with the team today. And Salah's comments were that, we want him to, like, basically take a mental health day kind of thing. Like, let him, he said it wouldn't be fair to him to put him out there with how he's feeling right now, kind of thing. And yeah, I mean, to go back to your original point / question, like, Salah it was pretty clear to me that they really want to make this work with him. They don't really have a choice, I guess, in a way. But yeah, Salah said all the right things. It was very positive, a very positive reinforcement type of press conference. The questions were good. They were asked about, like, this obviously is a selfish act. He's like, you could view it like that, but I just view it as a kid that wants the ball. And, earlier in the week, Salah pointed out that, like, it seems like more is focused a lot more on the production, and that, like, you can still contribute without producing is kind of like the lesson I think they're trying to get home to him. But I think they're going to welcome him back with open arms. They're going to try and work him back into the fold. They're going to try and deal with this trade thing and hope it boils over. That's not really all you can do. But yeah, I think Salah's press conference is really impressive. It showed, that he can be a great leader for this team. And I think maybe this can even be a rallying thing where they're like, all right, well, our coach is going to support us even when we're, publicly complaining about how they're using us and all that stuff. So I think that's a very positive thing. I mentioned Zach Wilson. I think he deserves credit for the stuff he said yesterday. And so if you want to believe that this team can like move forward from this and not let it be a distraction, I think you look at the coaching staff and you look at the locker room. They put together a roster of guys that are pretty mature. And so I think they can make it work. It's just a matter of if Elijah wants to make it work. Because if he wants to, he can certainly make it a problem and make it so they have no choice but to make him inactive for more than this week. And I will say, like I tweeted this last night, like on one hand, like Denzel Mims, like I mentioned, like I ranted about earlier, like guys like that have no business like demanding trades. But at the same time, he's like handled it in a way that, if Elijah handles it like Mims does and he wants to get traded, but he still just goes to work every day, kind of keeps to himself, keeps quiet. If you ask him about it, he'll say, yeah, I still want to get traded, but he's not like going out of his way to tweet. I don't think Mims has tweeted since like July. Honestly, a lot of this comes down to if he just hadn't like aired out his grievances publicly, then we wouldn't even be here because then maybe a coach and a player getting into it is not like anything crazy. Like that's not the first time that's ever happened, even for a winning team. But he decided to tweet about it and tried to tweet vague things about it and make it a story. And I don't know. That's what I got.
We're going to talk about Mims next. And you want to stick around to the end of this episode as well to hear a trailer that we have coming out for a special podcast here at The Athletic, From Cuba to Qatar, remaking the U.S. men's national team, a narrative podcast from The Athletic. Sam Stejskal and Paul Tenorio spoke with head coach Greg Berhalter, star players like Weston McKennie and Tyler Adams, and U.S. soccer legend Clint Dempsey, among many others, to bring you the firsthand story of the men's national team's long road from not qualifying for the 2018 World Cup to sending a talented young squad to this year's tournament. You'll be able to get every episode on the Athletic Soccer Show feed on November 1st, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Again, a full trailer for that upcoming podcast coming up at the end of this episode. All right, on to Denzel we go. This is, I feel like when that you hit the wrong chord, right, is when a player demands a trade and like the fan base reaction is like, Denzel Mims time.
They love that guy.
It's fascinating. So Denzel has been practicing in that spot as wide receiver on the outside. I guess Salah said today, not clear whether he'll start, but he is active. And Denzel Mims is going to get playing time. He's going to get an opportunity, which is something that he and many Jets fans have been waiting like over a year for.
Sorry, I get distracted. Sauce Gardner apparently just tweeted. So people pointed out, and he tweeted a quote from, it looks like the Bible, that says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility consider others as more important than yourself."
Ouch.
Okay.
So we know where Sauce sits in this.
Unsurprised. And I saw Breece Hall also liked Damian Woody tweet about the whole situation. So
yeah, I saw that Woody tweet. Yep.
But the funny thing about the Woody tweet was like it presented both sides of it. So technically you don't know what side Breece Hall is liking. But anyway, about Mims. Yeah, it's kind of funny how this full circle thing is happening because one guy demanded a trade and now he's going to get a chance because the other guy demanded it. I should say Denzel Mims requested a trade. It wasn't a demand.
Yeah. Denzel, just wait long enough. Somebody else will demand a trade and you'll get your shot.
You figured Denzel would eventually get on the field just because Corey Davis has a history of injuries and stuff like that. I don't know like how much Denzel is going to play, but he is going to. He plays on the outside, as does Elijah Moore. Jeff Smith's also there. I don't really think he's much of an outside receiver, but we'll see how they use it. I think they'll go more 12 personnel, so you have a lot of Garrett Wilson and Corey Davis alignments. This will lead to Garrett Wilson getting a lot more snaps and maybe looks than he was before. I'm curious to see what Mims looks like, how he's been. I don't really get to see him practice. He's been mostly on the scout team. This is his chance, though. Like he talked about all preseason, like, I deserve to be a starter. When all the evidence was, they drafted all these guys, they signed all these guys, they were clearly ahead of him on the depth chart. But now this is his chance to go out there, and whether he plays 5 snaps or 25 snaps to prove what he's been talking about. And if he has a great game, then all of a sudden they either have a quality young receiver they can rely on, or they boost his trade value. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they use him and what he does with that.
So yeah, somebody may get traded out of this whole thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe Elijah helps him get traded, ironically. Yeah.
It's funny because like Elijah, obviously he did this to try to make a point and to try to do what he thought was best for him. But in no way is this good for him in a sense. Like you just said it, like this means Garrett Wilson probably gets more action and develops more chemistry with Zach Wilson and maybe takes that step in his progression where he's the guy. There's always a chance Denzel Mims catches 3 balls for 75 yards and a touchdown or something like that. And then, your value within the team, suddenly this guy can contribute. There's no way in which getting sent home from practice complaining and missing weeks of games is going to help you because it's only going to hurt your trade value and make it even less likely that the Jets would even consider trading you. It's just, I don't know.
That's one thing I forgot to mention. Like, what these guys don't realize is by making your trade things public, like you reduce the likelihood that you're going to get traded, especially because they haven't proven them. Like they're not Jamal Adams. Like if Jamal Adams demands a trade, he's going to have interest because he's an all-pro safety. When Elijah Moore and Denzel Mims do it, that other teams can be like, that we know that you're trying to trade him now and he hasn't proven anything. So here's like a 4th round pick. Like that.
And the more pressure he puts on himself when he does get on the field.
He's drawing more attention.
He drops one ball and then it's what's it going to be?
Great point.
Yeah, because he drops one ball at home and there's probably
fans. It's funny, fans were. He was one of the more popular guys on this team, I would say, coming into the year. And it's crazy how quickly things can change because I think I've seen more than 50% of the people responding to this being like, get rid of him. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
He's selfish. It's because the Jets fans are all in on this team being a winning team, which I don't think they expected. And so anybody ruining that, they've turned on him. So like you said, if he goes out there and gets drops and they're going to boo him. At the same time, if he goes out there and has a bunch of great games, then everybody will move on. But he's putting, like Marissa said, he's really putting a lot more attention, a lot of pressure on himself. Everybody's going to notice and pull the clip of him dropping it and put it all over Twitter. And we know he looks on Twitter just based on the fact that this all started because he quote tweeted Rich Cimini, just tweeting a stat. So it's I don't really get how or why he handled it. Maybe he'll talk today and explain himself, but he's not been someone who's been very keen on talking to the media this year because he's been frustrated, I imagine. So we'll see how that goes.
I wonder if they'll make him talk to the media at least.
I mean, technically, if he doesn't, he could get reported to like the NFLPA or whatever. So we'll see.
You mentioned the swing in the fan base, and that you said it sums it up. Like when Cimini originally tweeted that stat, which probably if it just goes out that way, nobody even thinks about it. But when it gets retweeted by Elijah, I feel like the reaction at that point was against Rich. Like there was a lot of like, oh, you're stirring things up. There's no need to do that.
Let me say, not to cut you off, but that was like so ridiculous to me. Like I know I'm not going to get into like how the fan base feels about Rich. I personally like Rich, but like all he did was
hang around on a beat long enough.
Yeah, exactly.
In the sports world in Philadelphia, New York, Boston, the fans will hate you.
Yeah, but specifically with this, all he did was tweet out that Elijah Moore did not get any targets, or that I forget what the exact tweet was, but it was really like just a fact. Like it's not like Elijah Moore saw that tweet and was like, "Huh, I haven't been getting targeted. You're right." And
it's not a waste of a tweet. Like I think there's value in that tweet.
Yeah.
Like he's sharing. That's a good tidbit. Like, listen, this guy is supposed to be one of the biggest weapons on this team, and he got no targets. Like
I was going to have this anyway, but in my reasons for optimism and concern, like Elijah was my number one concern. The tweet was a part of it, but like if you just looked at all the numbers, he had been playing a lot and not getting the ball. Like it's a fact. Like and he knows it. He's been frustrated about it all season, from what I heard. So, social media, everybody is quick to react and all that stuff. So I get that to a degree, but I just thought that was crazy how that people reacted. But yeah, now it's turned, and it's not like people are apologizing to Rich or anything. But
by the way, cheap plug, but Rich is a fellow Orangeman.
Oh right, yeah, he's always talking Syracuse football is undefeated.
Big game
right?
Saturday, big game.
Yeah, versus Clemson.
By the way, I ran into a can't wait listener from Syracuse at the airport the other day too.
Nice.
Yeah. There are you ever watch Arrested Development where the Never Nudes? They're like, there are dozens of us.
There are dozens of us in the media. That's
what I mean. Yeah.
True.
Yeah. All right, I had a plan of where to go next, but
sidetracked.
Broncos.
Broncos. Yeah, let's talk about the Broncos. Let's get away from this stuff for a little bit and just talk about this football team. The one last thing I was going to say was about Elijah is he's not playing Sunday. And when you think about this team going into this game, because of the way the season's played out, it doesn't feel like a problem going into a game when a team's 1-3 in a row, which is another thing against him and this demand for a trade, because it's like, we don't even mind that you're not playing Sunday because you haven't been a part of the offense. But let's talk about this offense, because the fact is this Broncos team has struggled because the offense has been terrible. They went out, they got Russell Wilson, they gave up a lot for him, and he's been bad. Completion percentage under 60%, 5 touchdowns, 3 picks. The yardage is 240 per game. He was at like 188 last Thursday in that terrible game. He started that game great and then was awful after that. And this is a team that has, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, good receivers. And you felt like they were going to be a good team, but where they are good is the defense. It's still a really good defense. And this Jets offense that has struggled to throw the ball and has relied on the run, that's going to be a challenge this week, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because, as you mentioned with the Moore thing, they're going to probably have a similar game plan to what they've had the last couple of weeks, because the Broncos have one of the best pass defenses in the league. Patrick Surtain shuts down pretty much. He's Sauce a year from now is what I would say. Like, he's maybe what you see Sauce will be next year. Like, I've seen people talk about him as defensive player of the year. He's been that good. So their defense is quite good. They can get run on a little more than get passed on. You're not as scared as their offense because Russell Wilson is not the same Russell Wilson, and his hamstrings hurt, and he's looked pretty rough so far this season. And the running game's kind of weak because they lost Javonte Williams. Like you said, they do have those receivers, so they can make big plays if you make mistakes. But yeah, so I think this is going to be one of those grinded out games. I don't think you'll see either team scoring. I mean, unless the Jets defense has a rough day, which I don't think they will. I don't think you're going to see either team scoring like 28 points. I think this is more like a 17-13 game or a 21-17 game, something like that. The Broncos are very beatable, but traveling to Denver is hard. That's one of the harder road trips. They got killed the last time they were there, I believe last year, actually. So it's a tough road trip, especially because they just got done a road trip to Green Bay. The altitude and all that stuff. Like it's a challenge, and the Broncos have talent on their roster, even if they're not like well coached or if Russell's not the same. It's not going to be like that. Like this is, I know the line has moved to such a degree that it's a 1-point spread now, but I think it's going to be a close game. And I'm curious to see how the Jets adjust on offense in particular, and how because teams are going to expect that they're going to run the ball a lot now. So how does Breece Hall handle that? How does Michael LaFleur handle that in terms of adjusting and, being creative with his play calls? I think you'll see a lot of the tight ends. I think you'll see a lot more Uzama and Tyler Conklin, things like that. And I think you're going to see a lot of Garrett Wilson, especially with Elijah out. I think they're going to try, because he's a guy that can make plays after the catch. So you're going to try and manufacture a lot for him. So, so it's an interesting matchup. It's not, we wouldn't, again, we're going to say this a lot this year because they're actually winning. But if you had said before the season that they would come out of Green Bay with a win and essentially be favored against the Broncos on the road, like, I would have called you crazy. So, it's interesting that we've gotten here to the point where I think fans are expecting them to win now, as opposed to be like, it would be cool if we split those Packers and Broncos games.
Yeah, it's expecting win. Now, the Jets have been great in I have no idea what that sound is. Hopefully you guys can't hear it, but
we can hear it.
The alarms are getting sounded because of my rant.
Just the sounds of New York City.
New York City. I don't know what's going on. I'll be real quick and oh my God. Anyway,
it's all good.
I lost my train of thought because of it. The Jets have been great in the fourth quarter.
Yes.
And the fourth quarter is a problem in Denver just because that's when the air gets to you, right? So I wonder how they need to get off to a better start, I feel like, because it's a hard place to rally.
Russell Wilson's been bad in the fourth quarter though, so that could help them.
Yeah, the reverse Jets. That's the weird thing about this Jets team. It's hard to even say they can't start slow because they've had insane fourth quarter. So I don't know. I mean, you don't want to go into the fourth quarter being killed or anything, but this Broncos team is way more beatable than I thought they would be before the season. So I'm not scared of them, but I think Jets fans aren't scared enough of them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think you don't want to get too confident. I'm sure this team isn't too confident going into this game, but because it feels like, you win your fourth game in a row, everybody still feels great. Suddenly the Elijah Moore thing fades a little bit. Whereas you lose this one, now you're 4-3. Was Elijah a factor in it all, like leading up to, it just gets messier because depending on what happens on the field on Sunday, like it either minimizes what happened this week or it boosts it up. And that's the last thing this team needs.
I mean, if they go out there and the offense looks sloppy or something like that, or, whatever, like, it's going to be hard not to like turn to that, be like, did this wind up, pulling your focus away from the game this week? I mean, they're not going to say it. Nobody will admit that or anything. Not to go back to the Moore thing too much, but his teammates are going to have to answer for this today in the locker room and on Sunday in the locker room and probably early next week in the locker room. Like, this is just he created a new cycle on his own. Like, nobody else did that but him. So.
Yep, not what you want. What you do want, though, is our picks, I hope. We're going to come back with those after the break. You may have noticed what looks like beer that we're drinking while recording the show if you watch us on YouTube. Well, guess what? It's not beer. It's water in a tall boy type can, and it's called Liquid Death. How'd it get that name? Well, because it will brutally murder your thirst, and their infinitely recyclable tall boy cans are helping to bring death to plastic bottles. They also donate 10% of the profits from every single can sold to help kill plastic pollution. You may be wondering, what does water from a can taste like? Well, guess what? It tastes like water, and they also have some flavors that are armed with 3 grams of agave nectar for more brutal flavor. So if you're walking by a school and see a kid taking out a tall can and drinking from it, don't worry. It's probably just Liquid Death. You can go get Liquid Death right now at your local Whole Foods Market, Target, and Stop and Shop stores, or find a Liquid Death retailer near you with their store locator tool at liquiddeath.com/wait. That's liquiddeath.com/wait.
Reserve Bar is your online source for premium and luxury spirits, wine, and champagne. And now Reserve Bar offers same-day delivery. Reserve Bar has a vast lineup of rare and hard-to-find bottles, premium brands, celebrity spirits, and limited releases that you just won't find at your local store. No one does spirits gifting better than Reserve Bar. Looking for an elevated gift? ReserveBar.com has you covered, and you can have the gift delivered right to their door. Even better, turn that spirits gift into a cherished memento with custom engraving. It's perfect for birthdays, weddings, anniversary, any holiday, you name it. Getting into home bartending? Reserve Bar has everything you need. Spirits for the shelves, sure, but they also have every barware, tool, and glass you'll need. Reserve Bar has a great feature called Cocktail Lounge. This is a treasure trove of cocktail recipes, bartending tips, interviews with master distillers, celebrities, and more. The hot trend in spirits is ready-to-drink cocktails. Have you tried these? These taste better than ever, and Reserve Bar now has a huge collection of them. These canned cocktails are great for parties when you just don't have time to tend the bar, and ideal for tailgating season, which is already in full swing. So I highly recommend visit reservebar.com today and use our promo code WAIT to save $10 off your purchase of $75 or more on spirits, wine, or pre-made cocktails, but only when you use our special offer at reservebar.com with the code WAIT. That's reservebar.com, code WAIT. This offer expires December 31st, 2022.
All right, welcome back to the Can't Wait podcast. Time for our pick segment with our guest picker. And this week, we want to welcome in Jonathan Counts wearing the Jets t-shirts. Zach publicized this as our special guest. And Jonathan, before we talk to you, I just want to play this video to show people why we wanted to have you on, why we wanted to have you talk and then get your pick. So Marissa, go ahead, play the video.
And why it's so special.
Yes.
Yep. I'm him.
That's right. Jonathan. It was Jonathan's wife's cheesehead that went to Sauce Gardner last week in Green Bay. You DM me on Twitter. Amazing. Thank you for reaching out. It was great to find out who gave the cheesehead. I assumed that it was actually like a Packer fan and that it just fell on the ground or something and he picked it up. So first, explain to me why you guys had the cheese head in Green Bay. Obviously, you also shared a picture with us of you in full Jets gear at Lambeau, which is brave, and we credit you for that.
There's a lot of Jets
but was
fans
it just a, hey, we're in Green Bay, we need a cheese head, and then being down there?
Yeah, basically, like before we left for our trip and everything, my wife, she was just dead set on getting a cheese head. That's all she wanted. And so once we got to the stadium, the pro shop, it was just packed and the lines were like way too long. So we thought we missed our chance. And then, we're walking up to our gate and they had a little pop-up shop. So she ran over there and just bought one. And, we took a bunch of pictures, got into the stadium. And from that point, it just became like a prop for me to like terrorize all the Packer fans around me. So like, come the fourth quarter, I'm standing on the bleachers like Fireman Ed, like leading the Jets chant, like J-E-T-S, and it was pretty wild. And then the game was over, everybody's hanging on the railings and the players are running by, and then I was just holding out the cheese hat right there.
So good.
Yeah.
And playing
what was it like seeing Sauce? He has been bringing it everywhere with him. Like,
I know, right? And then it was so funny because my wife was just like, "Hey, that's my hat. That's my hat." Off the field.
Her hat is going to live in Sauce Gardner's house forever. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was going to throw it on, throw it back or something, but no. But it was great. It was just like an all-time memory, bucket list type of situation, and seeing everything out. But
that picture was, that photo was everywhere, literally everywhere. So
my wife, she actually gave me a quote. Real quick. I was like, "Do you have a statement?"
She said, just so people know, we were hoping she would join us too, but she's a teacher, right? So
you should mention her name so people know her name too.
Carrie,
Carrie.
Okay. Shout out to Carrie.
Yeah, shout out to Carrie. She said, "Behind every great cheese hat is the woman who bought it."
Oh, that's amazing.
I have a question.
Yeah,
did you go buy her another cheese head? That's what I want to know.
I was debating it, but I did not.
Well, what are you going to do with the cheese head?
Couldn't live up to that one. Yeah.
That was the whole thing. I didn't want to buy it because I didn't want that juju, like
true.
I was like, you can go for it, go buy it, So
so she's really the famous one.
Well, Jonathan, what's your story? We usually ask everybody what their story as a Jets fan is. What's yours?
Mine.
Like, how did you become a Jets fan? How have you
ingrained in my soul? It's so hard to explain. I was just born this way. So, just year after year, patiently waiting.
What was the Lambeau trip about? Was that like a long time thing? Like, were you guys planning that?
I actually work for a company based out of Green Bay.
Perfect.
So so we kind of we just revolved it around like me going out there for work and then
work. So it was a work trip.
A little bit.
Air quotes.
So that means you can expense the cheese hat.
I should, right? So and then Carrie left Monday morning and I stayed in Green Bay, like going into the office for work. And I got to talk a little smack and let them know I was the guy, handed off the cheese head. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. It's great.
All right, let's move on to the picks. Jonathan, you have a lot to live up to here because right now Marissa's going to throw the stats up on the screen. Listeners continue to lead the way. 10-8. Mike Dunn, 1A, solid week last week, going 2-1. He got the Jets right, the Falcons right, wrong on the Cowboys. Me and Marissa struggling again, 1-2. We're both
great week for Blatt.
But Blatt making a comeback, getting back even. 3-0 week, Jets, Vikings, and Seahawks. And you even said, Zach, weeks that you've picked the Jets have been big for you. So, we'll see. But we always start with the leader. So you get to go first, Jonathan.
Okay. I'm going to take Geno, former Jet, and my Mountaineer brethren. 5.5.
Okay.
Falcons, 6.5. And then I'm going to have the Commanders, 4.5.
Ooh.
Money line also, and just throw that dagger right through Aaron Rodgers' heart.
Wow.
Do your employers know you're saying this?
I was speaking to my boss after this, and she just said around off.
So you're on the Taylor Heineke hype train there.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So Seahawks, Falcons, Commanders. Zach,
Okay.
you're up.
All right, I'm gonna go Falcons plus 6.5 as well.
Me too,
I feel like
actually.
they're better than I thought they were gonna be. Certainly, they're pretty well coached. Let's see. I had to do this on the fly because I've been very focused on the Elijah Moore stuff. I'll go Colts plus 2.5. I think they've played a lot better. They're playing the Titans. Titans don't really scare me very much. Oh, and the Giants are underdogs.
Yeah, that's my pick.
I won't pick that one then.
I feel like that's a trap.
I'm gonna go Chiefs -2 against the 49ers.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I just think the 49ers are good. I don't think McCaffrey's gonna play for them this week. So I feel like the Chiefs will win by more than 2 points.
All right,
Okay.
Marissa, what do you think? You want me
All
to
right.
go
Well, so I also had the Falcons plus 6.5. And then I know this is our Jets podcast, but Giants are looking pretty good. So Giants plus 3 at Jacksonville. And then my last pick, Mac Jones has a lot to prove now that he's back as the starter. So I'm going to go Patriots -8.5 versus the Bears. Or else they're going to bring Bailey Zappi back in.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, the pressure's there. Bailey.
Yeah. Yeah, he's looked good.
That's
saw
why
it
I didn't want to touch
firsthand
that
last
game,
weekend.
just because I feel like the team was getting behind Bailey Zappi, and now they've pulled him away. But
Yeah.
okay. All right. I'm going head to head with Zach on the Titans Colts game. I know the Titans haven't looked good, but I just feel like at their core, they're a pretty good team. -2.5 at home. So I'll take that. Packers going head to head with Jonathan. I'll take the Packers. I feel like they were embarrassed last week, flat out. And
2 weeks in a row, they've been embarrassed.
Yeah, true.
So
True. But
can they
at
make
home
it 3?
last week. Yeah. And the Commanders are bad. I think they come out and they actually win that game handily. And then the last one was tough. I almost went with the Giants, but I'm going to go Cowboys with Dak back -7 against the Lions. The Lions were like that team that was in every game and losing close games. And then last week they just got blown out. And I feel like that's it. Like the bubble burst. And they're just going to resort to being the Lions. So Cowboys -7. All right. Hey, Jonathan, thank you so much. Do you generally go to home games or just road trips?
I mainly go to home games. That was my first road trip.
Oh, cool.
Pretty sweet.
Well, that's a memorable
first one, yeah.
road trip.
Yeah,
And they're 1-0. So
not for nothing, Green Bay. Everybody was so nice out there. The whole area was awesome. It was just an awesome experience. So highly recommend.
Yeah, and then Lambeau's really cool because it's just like in a neighborhood. Like you say that to people and they don't really understand what you mean, but you get there, it's like legit, just like in a neighborhood. So.
Yeah,
and not a neighborhood like with tall apartment buildings, like
like houses,
and picket fences and driveways. Yeah, it's
people tailgating out of their garages.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Good luck the rest of the way with obviously the Jets, and hopefully that your employers handle this okay. And
just one more
and
thing.
say hi to your wife for us.
Yeah, I will. And it's Mims season now. So all right.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Tell Carrie we said hi. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, that is going to do it for us. If you want to join The Athletic, $1 a month, 6 months, go to theathletic.com/can't-wait. Final thoughts, Zach? Well, I guess the final thought is like, did anybody ask Strevler what he thinks about it?
They did not. Though I will say they do like a video and they win where the players are coming off the field and they like have them like, yeah, Jets win. And Chris Strevler made a nice little cameo there. So they clearly value him. I just want to point that out.
At least the PR staff does.
Yeah.
Yes.
and us.
And we do. All right. Outstanding stuff. I teased it a little earlier. Great new narrative podcast coming to the Athletic Soccer Show. Comes out on November 1st about the U.S. men's national team getting ready for the World Cup, coming off of obviously the disappointment of not making it 4 years ago. Marissa, roll the tape and we'll talk to everybody after the game next week.
The U.S. hit rock bottom in Cuba in 2017.
Can't even talk about it. Still, it's tough to speak about. We failed. Simple. It was a very dark time in U.S. soccer's history, not making the World Cup.
That disaster, in some ways, was a blessing in disguise.
With so many younger players coming in, everybody was extremely hungry. Competition started.
The U.S. men's national team went through a dramatic evolution.
It was at a point where I think, okay, I'm going to lose these guys here. They're going to stop believing in what we're doing.
They're still forming. They're not fully realized players yet.
I remember after that El Salvador game, just thinking to myself, man, like, this is going to be a grind.
They're talented. There's a lot of hype around them, but are they really ready to take that next step?
Everyone has something to prove. We got a lot of players who probably have that mentality.
And now this team will head to the World Cup in Qatar with massive expectations around it.
If we can get our group to play without fear, we'll be dangerous.
We have one mission, is to go to the World Cup and to win.
I'm Paul Tenorio.
And I'm Sam Stejskal.
We are excited to bring you a special podcast series on the Athletic Soccer Show feed, From Cuba to Qatar, remaking the U.S. men's national team.
The series details how the team was rebuilt, from the catastrophe of not qualifying for the 2018 World Cup to now sending a talented, young roster to Qatar.
You'll hear from the biggest names in U.S. soccer, from head coach Greg Berhalter to former greats like DeMarcus Beasley and Clint Dempsey,
and current players like Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, and Gio Reyna.
The entire series will be out on November 1st on the Athletic Soccer Show podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts.